Welcome back to another episode of Seeming Pile with Lauren and Tucker. I am Lauren.
And I'm Tucker.
And Tucker, have you ever been addicted to crack?
No.
Okay, I haven't either. The closest I've come is Baldur's Gate 3.
Is that a game?
It is. It's a new game. We have it on the PlayStation 5. It's been out on the PC for a while, and it's been in early access for like 4 years. Mm-hmm. The studio that made it, they've been working towards this game for like 20 years.
Wow.
And it's doing that retro thing where you pay $60 and you get a complete game. You don't get, a half-finished game with a DLC bug patch, a week in. And
Whoa.
the game is like based on Dungeons and Dragons. It's basically Dungeons and Dragons in video game form. And we've sunk so many hours into that game. I haven't stayed up until 2:30 since college.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we've seen the opening like 30 hours of the game like 7 times at this point. And it starts in the character creator. Because you're like, ooh, there's so many options here. And then you start seeing cutscenes and you're like, I wonder what the other options lead to. And there's so much to do. And we go to bed thinking about the next time we're going to get to play Baldur's Gate. We've been cooking food like we have 4 kids who need to get to soccer practice because we just want to play Baldur's Gate 3. And I haven't lost myself in something like that in a while. And I don't know if anything has ever gripped your soul in that way.
Well, first off, I commend you for not staying up past 2:30 since college. The amount of self-control you must possess is, either incredible or I'm the subhuman.
I only have limited self-control in very specific capacities.
And bedtime is one of them?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, it is an important skill to have, I've heard. So, has anything captivated me to that point where I am rushing through the trivialities of staying alive? I know sometimes I will rush through meals, but I don't know if it's forever. I don't know if it's ever for the same thing over and over again. My mom has told me stories about when she was a kid, she would just straight up not eat because she just would be in the forest. She just, her mother would have to remind her to eat. And I don't know if I've ever been that severe. I've definitely had my obsessions, but I don't think it's ever been like that. This must be a very, very, very captivating game.
It is. And part of the problem is the romance option.
Oh.
You can have sex with any member of your adventuring party. Allegedly, you can have sex with a bear. Haven't gotten to that part yet. But there's something that just clicks when it's I want this person to like me. This person is cooler than me and I want them to like me. And it's so fun doing multiplayer with my husband because we'll be sitting there like Family Feud contestants after every interaction they have, clapping and going, oh, good answer. Because we're both with the same goal of I want you to get it in with the cleric in the same way I want to get it in with the rogue. And we're going to coach each other to infidelity. It's great.
So a couple episodes ago, you marveled at the seemingly endlessness nature of Stardew Valley. Would
Correct.
You consider this game to be even more endless? Oh, well, first off, it's endless if it's online with other people. Is it online with other people?
You can play it online with other people. We've done local co-op, which I think is a wonderful thing that should stick around. But there's so much there.
So this is all local. This is all built into the game.
Yeah, it's all built into the game. You can play online with other people. You can multiplayer with whoever. But every conversation we've had, every conversation I've watched that I've participated in, like maybe 3 or 4 have played out exactly the same. We have found something new every single time we've played. And I don't think we're halfway through the first act of the game.
Wait, okay. How many times have you restarted this game?
Let's see.
Roughly.
So I have started the adventure 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband has started the adventure probably 4 more times after that.
So each time you're not getting through the first act of what I assume is a 3-act game?
Yes. We've gotten past like a massive boss twice.
Oh, and you die.
Oh no, we've paused and we've had to put the game down because we had work in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way it's structured, the premise of the game is you are kidnapped by these things called mind flayers, which are like these aliens that have tentacles. And they've planted a parasite in your brain that after a certain amount of time is going to turn you into a mind flayer. Mm. But there's a race of creatures called the Githyanki, and they like storm the ship with their dragons, and the process is interrupted. And so you escape with a couple of other people. And you find other people who have had these like parasites implanted in your brain, and the whole point is you want to get it out before it turns you into a mind flayer. We have gotten as far as going to this camp of druids and asking, hey, can anyone help get this out of us? And they're like, cool story, go and kill all of these goblins and then we'll help you. Rough paraphrase of 3 hours of conversation and other encounters. And so we've killed all the goblins. And that's as far as we've gotten on everything we've done so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you have to restart every time? Or can you save your game?
Oh, yeah. We're definitely saving. We have multiple saves that we're playing in. We just keep restarting because we want to see it again. We want to do it differently. We tell ourselves we're going to do the mean option, and then we continue to pick, like, the good options.
Yeah. I always have such a hard time being mean in video games. And it's like, but it's a video game. That's a place where it's okay to be mean. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
And depending on like the race and character class you pick, you get different dialogue options too, and people respond to you differently. So like if you play a dark elf, weirdly enough, there are people who are like, wow, it's really brave that you're walking around as a dark elf around these parts. And we're like, why is that brave?
You find out in Act 2.
But it's been a bizarre turn of events. And it's kind of humiliating in a way to be sitting, giggling, blushing, and kicking your feet at stupid little romantic scenes between characters. But I don't know what it is. It's the crack in it, I think.
Mm-hmm. What part of it would you consider the crack? Is it the choice? Is it the romantic scenes? Is it the thrill of the chase?
There is definitely a thrill of the chase, but I think it's also like it's LARPing without having to coordinate schedules. Outside of your own, obviously, but there is something super fun about like playing pretend and having someone set up this like elaborate world, and it's like, all right, go play, and it's very fun, and the combat's good. We've been having a ton of fun like pulling off assassination missions of just sneaking in and destroying the place.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean that's what video games are really supposed to be, these elaborate worlds. Go have fun, right?
Yeah.
I mean, would you consider this to be more or less an open world game?
To a degree. You can definitely do what you want and kind of follow your own path. You can follow the main quests completely and not deviate at all. You can do as many of the side quests as you want. There's so many options. We're pursuing a new option in the most recent file that we've made that we haven't done before because it's way off the map. And I have no idea if it adds anything, but we're going to find out.
There you go. You should be taking notes on all of this. You can have the most thorough wiki of this game anyone has ever published.
Oh my gosh. There's so much. People have been recording so many videos about like the encounters that they've had, and how what kills me about games like this is finding out who is baby girl, finding out who is the character that everyone has claimed. And that's been a ton of fun self-discovery as well.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, it does sound like a game that's worth it, and a game that is immersive enough to really classify itself among the really good ones. Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't game a whole lot, and I told myself I don't game a whole lot when the game came out, that I was just going to watch. And I sat down to play one day in between stuff, and I'm like, I'm going to play for like 2.5 hours. That seems like a lot of time. And like 4 hours later, I finally looked at a clock, and I was like, oh, that's too much time.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah, time, it's true. Time flies when you're having fun. Banging bears, apparently. How have you not found that option yet? How have you...
Well, we only recently rescued the bear.
Oh.
Yeah, he was being held captive by the goblins, and I never understood the internet's propensity for calling older men daddy in like a sexual way. I understand it with this druid. Things clicked all of a sudden, and I was like, oh, okay. You know?
Okay.
I'm on crack. That's the only...
That it has to be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What a fascinating addiction this is.
This is gonna hit with some percentage of the audience, but it does. I sometimes when I talk about things I enjoy, I hear myself, and I'm like, if you don't have context, I sound insane.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true for any passion, really, because you get so you get so uppity and excited about it, and it's like nobody is empathetic to this. Nobody gets it, right?
Nobody gets it.
And even when they do, it's like, do they get it? Do they really?
Or are we all alone here?
I doubt you're alone in this case, because it does sound like a game, especially if it's been in previews for 4 years. You said that's a very long time for a game to be in previews, publicly available in previews, right?
Yeah, I think so. Early access went on for forever because they wanted it to be good and done. Yeah, because it's a really big problem with video games right now that it'll be released incomplete, and so people will pre-order a game that's not done. Mm-hmm. And they'll spend $70 for a game that's not finished, and then another like $25 for DLC that is just the rest of the game.
Yes, that is bad. But without the DLC pack, did you not do the same thing? Or did people not do the same thing? You have the game on early access for 4 years.
Well, early access is just testing. It's not, they're not calling that, oh, here's the release of the game.
You don't pay for early access,
I guess. I don't know how early access works. I don't play video games that often. Like, apart from Stardew Valley or like Catherine and now this and like Solitaire on the desktop.
Oh yeah.
I don't game a whole lot, so there's a whole like subculture of early access and things like that I just am not familiar with. But I don't have to be.
Right. Yeah.
Because the game is done.
Which you're right. It seldom is. And to be fair, it is very hard to build and design these AAA games. Like, like they got it to a usable state, and 4 years later they decided it was done, right?
Yes.
Like so it sounds like they valued it and they didn't put themselves on a time crunch.
Yes, they deliberately avoided having like the suits in the C-suite tell them what the game should be. Yeah. They purchased the license to Dungeons & Dragons in full, so Wizards of the Coast couldn't tell them what to do. It is their game the way they wanted, and it's so much better for it.
Yeah. and no one can tell them the schedule either, which is the probably the big thing that's driving game incompleteness is that you need to make it to market, and that's I can see why, but it's still very unfortunate and rather unfair to the players when the day one patch is 50 gigabytes. It's like, did I even get a game?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it's kind of silly, especially when they try to sell you the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. Here's all the day one patch release.
I haven't actually heard of a scenario in which that occurred. Usually, if the game promises something and it's not ready on release, that comes with it for free. And then the DLCs that come afterwards add additional content above and beyond what was promised. Probably unlikely to be new mechanics and whatnot, but more content, for example.
Yeah. More skin textures and more clothing options.
But even so.
And yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit scammy.
Oh, completely. Especially since most of the people kind of forced to work under the conditions are hired as contractors. And so they'll come on for 18 months and then be put on a completely different team, so there's no cohesion and there's no health insurance.
Yes. Yeah, that's bad for multiple reasons, but especially in projects like that, just having something thrown at you from over the fence. Here you go, keep working on it. It's horrible. And your love of that thing being held against you. It's like, well, don't you love video games? Don't you want to work on video games? See, I don't understand why people who love video games work on video games.
Why do people who like movies work on movies?
I mean, I feel like it's conventional wisdom. Don't. Right? I guess in a way, because everyone who starts in computer science, right? It's like, I want to build a game. And it's like, do you really want to go into game development? You like playing video games. Do you really want that to become your job? Whatever becomes your job will stop being your hobby. Almost certainly. Do you really want to lose that? Do you want to trade that? Do you want? Yeah. I don't think that's a smart idea. Maybe it's not exclusive to games, but I don't know. And maybe it's the difference when you cross the line between someone who enjoys it to someone who has to produce it. You stop appreciating. I'm just trying to think, if you were forced to crank out music all day every day, would you go home and listen to other music? Is Tarantino only a film buff because he's only made 9?
They're like, when he makes his 10th, he's gonna hate movies forever.
Well, no, he's not who am I thinking of? Who cranks him out? Who's super prolific? Does Stephen King read?
That's a good question.
I mean, he probably does, but I could. It stands to reason that you write multiple books a year, you're not gonna want to read any. I don't know. It gets more tenuous the further I get away from, I want to make a game.
Yeah, but I think the same principle still applies. I used to edit on the side, and that sucks after a while.
Does that dry up your writing?
Yeah, because I didn't want to look at a screen after I'd spent 3 hours reading someone else's stuff. And that, I think, becomes the biggest thing, is eventually, if you're doing it for a job, you're doing it because someone else tells you to. Even if you're self-employed, there's the people who buy your stuff, there's the people who watch your stuff or listen to your stuff or whatever, and you depend on them being there for that. And so you're only doing it to make sure they show up the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's... It gets a little spooky when your hobby becomes your job, like a one-to-one translation. Not like, I enjoy games, I want to make them. that's not great. But I think you're right. It might be even worse. Like, oh, I like playing the guitar occasionally, to I'm going to make my career the music, and I'm going to eat food off of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not. I don't know. I was. I was on a cruise recently, and we met this couple who, in 2018, quit their jobs to do social media full time. Oh, I don't know what criteria you have to meet in order to do that. By all accounts, I think it kind of worked. They have their own cookie company now as well. Like they make cookies, and it was, I don't know, it was a very interesting progression of their careers. The guy started out as he did stuff with nuclear submarine propulsion, if I remember correctly, and now he's a social media influencer and makes cookies. Really, it's his wife that's the influencer. She has like orders of magnitude more followers than he does, but he has a healthy 4 to 5 digit following. Anyway, not important. But what's the criteria that has to be met in order to make that decision? Because for some, social media can be considered a hobby, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you accrue that following. At what point do you decide, I am going to do this and depend on it for income?
Yeah, I think that question is different for different people, because there are some people who make the jump expecting to make that their job, where they don't have the safety net with the social media or whatever like alternative job they do, where they don't have that. They're just going to pursue it until it works out. From the rare people I have people I've listened to who have talked about this, I think Swell Entertainment talked about how she wanted to be making like 120% of what her current income was before making the jump. That way, even if it was inconsistent, she was still making as much as she used to. And I think for me, that would also probably have to be the thing. I would want to be making what I'm making now and then some, which honestly gets harder and harder now that I'm, a few years into like a tech career. But I would want it to be as financially secure, and I would want to have like done my taxes once with that money.
Yeah.
And see what it's like.
Yeah. That's a smart way to do it. I think of it this way. How do people make their money on social media?
Ads.
Yes. That's basically it. You don't make much else in any other way.
Yeah, unless you yourself have product, but then your content is still the ad pointing to that product. So to me, the thing that keeps me from really entertaining that anymore is the awkward feeling of having to like step back into corporate America. And some people have, and it's been great. They still do it as a hobby on the side. But like, oh, what did you do in these, 2 years here? Oh, I was self-employed, online, very online.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I don't know, people still look down on you for that, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And and I even felt myself judging this couple, even though they were, fairly successfve. They
were also on that cruise with you.
That's very true. And they were, they talked about the other cruises they've taken and how they've been featured on, I think, Travel Channel. I don't know. It was very interesting. But when I think somewhere between casual user of social media, occasionally posts a video, really just uses it for, your 40 active followers who are also your friends, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere between that and I have over 5 million subscribers on YouTube. Somewhere between that is this dark place of people look down on you if that's your job because they don't understand how it works. When in reality, when you get to a certain point, you will have sponsors throwing thousands of dollars at you to mention their product because of the organic reach that has, right? I haven't watched TV with commercials in it forever, but I'll mute it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's just, it's distracting if I'm going to, like, you know, try to not pay attention to it. I have a very aggressive ad blocker, right? Like I don't know. I think it's very interesting how people look down on a medium level of success in doing that. And I think it's just because people don't understand it, but I'll bet you there's another reason. I can't quite articulate it.
Like for me, it's jealousy.
Okay.
I can't stand, and it's a thing I've had to work on. There's a certain range where there is like a level of resentment of thinking you could have done that, but not having done that.
Yes.
And so there was a stretch of time where I actually had to quit watching certain channels or like quit following certain accounts because it just engendered very ugly feelings of jealousy and bitterness and just creating more overall dissatisfaction with my current like job setup.
That's very, very, very easy trap to fall into. And we've talked about this previously. It's entirely likely that jealousy is at the root of almost every marketable emotion.
Yeah. I want what they have.
And when it starts to generate these vile mindsets, it no longer is productive. Sometimes the jealousy is productive because it pushes you harder. But sometimes you overshoot it and suddenly you're just stewing in anger, typing out a comment but never posting it, right? Like you're just
all the time.
You're just, ooh, yeah. So
sometimes you have to like marinate in hater tendencies. You have to say not to anything. You just have to say the things you want to say so that you don't actually say it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I always have to when I'm upset. I always have to write a couple email drafts because I have a tendency to be very dramatic. And
same.
and really punch some points.
Yeah.
And I have to read it to other people. Is this too spicy? Is this a spicy draft? Am I making enemies here? Because I don't want to make enemies because I need their help. But they're being bad. So I don't know. It's worth it to get it out, but don't click send.
Ooh, yep.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I've done the silent arguing in the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
Because when I have people I just don't want to deal with, what kills me and what's been killing me lately is I'm dealing with something as I'm wrapping up the last of my editing projects, where 6 months ago I did do a bad job on a project because my work stress was enough that I was like, we want to get this out the door, get this out of my life. And so I turned it in. It was not finished. It was probably like 65% done.
Okay.
And the author flipped justifiably. So I was like, hey, let me reread it. I will do these revisions for it. I will fix it. But now she's I hate when the frustrations were justified at a point, but now there are things that I can't fix anymore. And I'm like, quit emailing me just because I'm the only one who responds.
Yeah. You realize you've cocked up. You're trying to fix it. By most estimations, I guess except for hers, you're doing what you can, and that's and so you take it out in the shower.
Yeah. I'm like, it's bad enough that you have my email address and you're not just using the project portal.
That's
you should never have been given this email address.
Time to submit it done, and then hit that block button.
That is my intent.
Yep.
As soon as that book hits the market, blocked.
Right. Yep.
Gone.
All gone. One last thing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta have a screaming match in the shower. Sometimes you have to host a talk show in your shower. Sometimes you have to, you know.
I love writing spicy emails, as you put it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen those pieces of advice, I guess I should say, where it's like, oh, don't respond right away. Leave it for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then come back to it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I can never do that because it's like a thing left on my desk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I felt good about like overcompensating with my niceties in email. So that way when I downgrade from an exclamation point to a comma, I know what that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But to everyone else, that's just normal.
Yep. No, I definitely understand that. Do you ever write an email so spicy, so powerful that you're just proud of it? You want to send it for no other reason that you're just proud of the verbiage, and you're not even that angry anymore. It's just like this is like the perfect amount of spice. This is a spicy pepper. Mm.
Ooh.
Mm.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah. Can't send them though.
Yeah.
Shouldn't send them.
You've got screenshots. You've got per my last emails. You've got the full stops.
I've been begging for a response, but I've been met with silence.
Your silence is deafening.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
If we need to allocate more resources, please advise.
Sorry.
Does please advise boil your blood?
I've never been please advised.
Oh my gosh.
All of my work communication happens on Slack. So
nice.
I
forget you work with cool tech people who are under the age of 60.
Yeah,
that's a little mean. I don't work with people that old necessarily, but
no, but I feel like because you work on it's a software company, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but you do not work on the engineering team.
No, my title was technically customer success engineer, but I did more like customer facing stuff.
Right. I feel like in the engineering department they don't send each other emails. They'll just use whatever messaging platform you use. Right? Outside of that, on the more business side of things, it's still emails. And it likely will be for ever, right? Like it is I mean, it's a very nice way. It's a very, very good communication medium. But it's not good for a conversation, which is really all engineers do. Right? Like so it's I forget what point I was trying to make with this, but I've never what was the phrase? Please advise. I've never been please advised.
Disgusting.
I don't know how I would feel about it. Yeah.
What kills me is it'll be people word vomiting a problem or a scenario, and then the last two words of the email before like their email signature is just please advise. And it makes me want to rip my laptop out of the wall and throw it out a window.
Please advise on what? You didn't ask a question.
That's... Do you want a solution? Do you want an explanation? Yeah. I would prefer if they outlined all of those things and then like, what the fuck was up with that? And I'd be like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly what the fuck's up with that. Because it's... Yeah. No, I used to work with people like that. Yeah. No, I understand. Even that... they would just describe a problem and then radio silence. And it's like, well, what do you want me to do with this? Do you want me to go fix it? Do you want me to tell you how to fix it? Do you want me to explain why it's happening, and then you can derive how to fix it from there? Tell me what you want. Just tell me.
Because the thing that traps me too is wanting to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with trying to sound nice in text is you end up just sounding like the boss in Office Space, where you're just like, I mean, if you can we look into this and see what's up with that? Because I don't want to be like, hey, fix this, because that comes across as abrasive.
Yeah.
But the alternative is just sounding like a weenie and being like, can we figure out what's happening here? Can you build something?
But I think that's the only, I think it's accepted at this point. That's
regrettably.
That's the parlance for professional messaging communication. Maybe not so much in email, but definitely in instant messaging. It's and it's almost like a parody of itself, because you're doing it. Everyone knows you're doing it. Mm-hmm. You're all reading it in that voice, but it's still better than being abrasive. Yeah. Everyone's lying to themselves, and that's fine because you still get things done. But but everyone. Do you read it in that voice when people are like, could we? Maybe?
Sometimes if it's a problem that I have written out of my mind, if it's a problem that I'm like, this has been solved, and we're still dealing with it, that is the tone I read it in. But at the same time, I recognize that being nice is like the last bastion of civilization we have. We were at Trader Joe's, and literally every person was out at Trader Joe's. Mm-hmm. And I could feel like the evil part of my brain be like, kick that woman in the aisle. She's in your way. Kick her. And I was like, no, because she has no idea why I kicked her if I do that. Mm-hmm. And then her day's ruined.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
And this is just a tangent. I feel like the aisle width at Trader Joe's is always incorrect. Most specifically, the way the freezer aisle, right down the middle of the goddamn store, the way it's, belly button height, and the signs are too small to read, and the width it's 3 carts wide, maybe 4 carts wide. It's unnatural. I don't know any other way. It feels so wrong. It feels so wrong. Why have they done that? Anyway, yes. Sometimes I feel like committing war crimes in grocery stores too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I wish so badly that there was a 24-hour grocery store where I live, because no one shops at 2 a.m. And sometimes I'm awake. I don't have the same self-control as you do. Sometimes I'm awake, and it's like, there will be no one out but the Night Stalkers. It's Chicago. That's not true. But, it's... Yeah. To be fair, I don't know that I would actually want to do that here, because in some places in Chicago it gets spicy. I don't know how bad it is up here. I don't know if it gets spicy after 2. It gets pretty desolate. I know that.
I mean, if you're trying to go to a Trader Joe's at 2 a.m, I feel like the people you would encounter.
Yeah. But
I do understand what you mean.
Like, it's just so nice. It's so nice. But our food store closes at 10. The entrance that's closest to us closes at 9 inexplicably, and it's so inconvenient.
That was the thing that was lost to the pandemic, because certain places did used to be open at least until midnight, if not all night.
The Walgreens nearby was open until midnight. Now it's open till 10.
Walmart's 24 hours for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think they're 10 o'clock too.
That's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
But I get it. But it's sad.
I think McDonald's is also the same way.
McDonald's
used to be 20.
McDonald's drive-thrus are sometimes, not all of them, right?
Yeah.
But the ones I think I don't remember. I know the ones around where we went to college, their dining rooms were open. I think, 24/7.
Yeah.
The McDonald's by us, I think, is open 24/7, but they kick everyone out at 8. And the drive-thru is open, and the curbside delivery is open.
Okay.
There's a McDonald's a couple blocks south of us that is widely recognized as one of the sketchier McDonald's. They get your order right, but there's also some drugs being sold out on the corner of Wilson and Sheridan. But it's they kick everyone out at the same time, and I think it's still open.
Weird.
So if you have a car,
yeah.
I do not. I have a scooter, so I always feel bad when I make them walk it out to me. But if I can't go inside, I'm not going to go into the drive-thru.
Yeah.
I think you'd frown upon that. I'm sorry, but
probably, yeah.
I want my chicken nuggies. That's
exactly. They're good.
Yeah. I've paid through your stupid broken app.
Oh yeah.
McDonald's
Every
app
once
is
in a while,
dog
I'm
shit.
like, yeah, the McDonald's app. I should get that.
The deals are sometimes pretty good, but boy, is it flaky. Like, I admit, I have a 5-year-old phone, but every other app works fine.
Oh gosh, how old is mine? When did I get it? First year out of college, so this one's approaching 4 years old. Is 4 years old.
Yeah.
I've never understood people getting a new phone every year. It's such a hassle to, like, it's not a hassle, but for me it's a hassle to try and, like, move all the stuff over.
Yeah, because even with all the advances of, like, in mobile operating system cloud backups, some apps just don't take advantage of that, so you lose the data coming across. I know sometime one of my friends is getting a new iPhone, despite the fact that he has a 13, but he's given his 13 to his dad because his dad needs a new phone, and he's just taking the opportunity to upgrade because of it.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give your dad your 13 Pro. That's fine. Yeah. They finally
he raised you.
USB-C
He doesn't
iPhone.
deserve better than a 13.
Yeah. They finally
This
put
is giving
USB-C in the
back.
iPhone.
Oh yeah, and I think the EU had something about the USB-C that it's like the new default.
Yeah, that's, I mean, good for them. That was, I mean, Apple solved the problem they created. That's, I mean,
means
that's,
they can look like the good guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy they didn't play it off as this huge revolutionary thing for the environment. During their thing, I don't know if you've seen it, but they had this real cringe skit about the environment, where, what's her name? Octavia Spencer? Is that her name?
That is her name, but I don't know if it was her in the video.
I think it was. She played Mother Earth. It was good casting, but it was just cringe. It was all, Apple's going to be completely carbon neutral by 2030, and their Apple Watches, the new Apple Watches, most of the combinations you can get them in, or some of the combinations you can get them in with the watch and the band, are completely carbon neutral, including the power that it will use over the course of its lifetime, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Then they followed up with this cringe, this cringe thing. And, like, I mean, it is true that removing the charger from the box is, it makes the box weigh less. It makes the box smaller. You can ship more per cubic foot. Okay, sure. Everyone was upset about it. But their argument for keeping Lightning was the same thing. And it's like, but what if you only had one cable and one charger to charge all of your devices? I don't think I've used something other than USB-C for the devices I actually care about for years. For years.
Yeah. Wait, so were they shipping it without a charge cable?
I think it came with a cable. It didn't come with a brick.
Like the brick you put it on to charge?
Yeah, the wall wart.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right? And then everyone else copied them, and it's like, okay, fine, that's fine. If you don't have one, you'll buy one, and I guess most people already do. I have a drawer full of them. I've recently made my own 10-way USB charger. It's a fire
hazard.
Well, yeah, considering I'm the one that made it, absolutely. Actually, I'm also not entirely sure that it works because things charge super slowly, but the wires aren't hot. So it's not like it's asking for too much through those wires.
It's because it's charging so slowly. It's not hot. We're just gonna crock pot your devices until they're good to go.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. I tried charging an iPod Touch on it, and it kept boot looping because it charged enough to turn on, and then it would die.
Oh no!
So
because I was waiting, it took too long.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with that, but like I can understand that, but the argument for keeping the Lightning port was something environmental, and it's like, but shut up. You're still sending cables in every box. B, Lightning is mostly proprietary, and this is the only thing that uses it. Even your iPads and your computers are on USB Type-C. Why is this the holdout? Why is this the hill you're dying on, Apple? But now you can charge everything that they sell over USB-C, and that's the way God intended.
Mm-hmm.
For it just works mentality. Yeah. It's insane that it took them this long. Why were they such sticks in the mud for this? I have no idea. Not a clue.
Yeah, I think some businesses decide it's worth fewer resources to stay the way they are than to put forth those resources to do something different.
But that's the thing. They are already redesigning the iPhone every year. They're not these aren't tiny upgrades between 13, 14, 14, 15. They're completely new chips, right? So that means they're completely new boards.
Yeah.
And while most of them stay similar, and you're probably not starting completely from a blank schematic every time, changing from Lightning to USB Type-C is probably trivial compared to redesigning for the new features of the new SoC for that year that they also design. And they also put a USB controller in for this generation of phone. And if you get a Pro model, I'm blurry now, if you get a Pro model, then you get USB 3. I don't know why they didn't put that in their not Pro model. Probably because the Pro model is now able to, like, I don't know, be a camera, like a real camera. Like, like you can plug a hard drive into it, or you can like plug your computer into it, and it'll do capture. That's because the iPhone camera is incredible.
I mean, yeah.
It's like
I will say, as an Android user who stands by having an Android just because I don't want to switch, the memes about the Android camera are kind of true.
Yeah, and it's Google sold their soul to get whatever kind of spooky magic computational photography they have. My phone has one lens on it, right? That's crazy for today. It has one lens on it, and sometimes it'll outperform. I think I recently put it up against a 13 in portrait mode in the dark, and sometimes it will outperform it, which is nuts.
Ooh, that's nifty.
The Pixel cameras have always been very good, and that's kind of been, you know. But then I played with the Pixel 7, Pixel 6 or Pixel 7 in the T-Mobile store, and it was bad. It was so bad because when you zoom in and zoom out on an iPhone Pro, it switches between the lenses automatically, right? Between 0.5 zoom and whatever the super zoom is, right? The Pixel does that too, but they're not color calibrated. so the shift is extra jarring because I feel like the perspective shift was worse because obviously the cameras are in two different positions. Yeah. The perspective shift was worse and the color shift was bad because they weren't color calibrated. On the iPhone, you can see a little bit of perspective shift if you're up close to something.
Sure.
But the colors are fine. It's almost like, and Steve Jobs quoted this when they released the iPhone. The people who want to make the best software, people who care about making the best software also make their own hardware, or something like that. And it's very true.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah. Yeah, it just takes so much longer to build the hardware. Allegedly.
Oh,
as
God.
someone who as someone who works in neither the hardware nor software.
And I mean, I've gotten more into hardware development because I do software for my job. It's consumed my hobby. We've already had this discussion. But just the last couple of projects I've been on, personal projects I've done that have involved hardware. Oh my goodness, the things that you have to consider, the Bluetooth iPod board, that thing. I'm using such small components. Components, 0402 components are not that small in the grand scheme of things, it turns out. But you have to be concerned about, as you're reflowing the solder, you have to be concerned about the surface tension, because it will pull. I mean, it always pulls it, but it'll actually like pull it incorrectly because it's so small and the surface tension of solder is so high. And then when you get into like really high speed signals, you have to worry about the capacitance in display technology, like screens, high resolution screens.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen circuit boards with squiggly traces on them, right?
Yeah.
That's so they can literally match the length of differential pair signals so that they get where they're going at the same time.
Wow.
And they're going the speed of light, right? Because it's electricity, a kind of sort of propagation through.
Yeah.
And then I forget what it's called, but if the wavelength of the signal you're sending is shorter than the distance you're sending it, then you get reflections. Like in physics class, you remember like the rope and how you would have nodes? That's because the wavelength of the frequency was shorter than the length of the rope, so you were getting reflections back. There's so many things you have to consider, and there are a lot of computer-aided tools that help you do it, but my God, you have to know what you're doing. It's insane. And also, it costs so much to screw up, especially with these really, really complicated boards, like motherboards. Anyway, that's software, you can just do it over and over again. It's all inside the computer. It's magical. It's imaginary. But hardware, it's hard.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I lucked out in not having to take any of the like actual hardware classes. I saw a couple soldering classes. I have soldered a thing once with my father, and that was just in like my car's mirror on like the side, because it had connection, and so we were trying to like fix it so that I could still turn the mirror without having to actually push the mirror manually. But and those were beefy pieces, all things considered, and it's still so delicate.
Oh yeah. I'm kind of thinking that the solder joints are why my little 10 USB port charger isn't working, because they're not good. I did my best. My solder skill is like leveled up orders of magnitude, but for some reason I couldn't get the damn thing to stick. And I didn't think I needed flux, but maybe I should go back over it with flux, because flux makes everything easier. It breaks the surface tension of the solder, so it actually runs to the parts where it's supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think the good stuff is made out of some kind of tree sap or rosin. It's real gross and it smells funny, but it's so good.
It's the things that smell and are the worst for you are sometimes some of the best technology out there. Asbestos will kill you, but it's the best insulator we've got.
It's really good. There's the whole thing, leaded solder versus unleaded solder.
Yeah. Lead's pretty great.
Don't put
it in you.
Yeah. Can you say the same thing about mercury? Is mercury also great, but don't put it inside you? Or is mercury just academically useful?
I mean, mercury is super fun to play with, allegedly. My parents are old enough that I think they were still allowed to play with mercury in school.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. We're just stuck with lame gallium if we want our liquid metal. lame gallium. Ugh.
But we can afford heaps of gallium with the help of our sponsor tonight.
That's right. Well, Lauren, the episode of today's steaming pile is, you know those things in the shower. They're like big poofs, right?
Yeah.
They have launched, and I can't believe I'm saying this, they've launched a campaign against all natural loofahs and sponges. Now, I don't know if you know this, but loofahs are grown on trees, and sponges come from the ocean. But these little puffball guys have paid us to say, enough is enough. Stop taking the sponges from the ocean. Stop growing loofahs on trees. Now, I don't think that this is a purely environmental angle. I think they just want to corner the market in abrasive scrubbing. Now, this is just a theory. But I think they want to be the one scrubber to rule them all. What's interesting though is that technology hasn't really advanced at all. Abrasives and exfoliants. Why? And puffballs, I'll give you a little bit of advice for, the admittedly small fee you're paying us. Puffballs, maybe you should try being on a stick. Loofahs don't have to corner that market. You want to squeeze out loofahs, right? You want to wring them out? Get on a stick. So that's our 2 cents from Steaming Pile. Puffball exfoliators. I'm sure they have a real name, but they wanted to stay a little. They didn't want the direct correlation drawn with them.
Sure.
So thank you, Puffball exfoliators, and I hope you take that little tidbit of advice and run with it.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing them corner the market. I think we can all use a good stick to help us get places.
That's true.
Yeah. But that does bring us to the end of another episode of Steaming Pile with Lauren and Tucker. I have been Lauren.
And I have been Tucker.
And we will see you all next time.